quite frankly, I think all 7 of us can certainly make remarks along this same line, thanking everybody about it. Would like to just point to a couple things. Keeping in mind, I'm an appraiser. After college, I lived in Dallas and then moved back because I wanted to live in my hometown. My first memories in life were in Los Alamos, New Mexico, and I went to Wood Gormley here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, on that. But once you've been out in the world and you come back to your hometown, and you see things through a different set of eyes than what you saw them when you were growing up. In Luna County, there were 3 major lenders. Keeping in mind I was an appraiser, and all 3 lenders shared a board of directors. It was called interlocking board of directors. It's prohibited by federal law unless you're grandfathered in, and they were all grandfathered in. I was sitting in front of the television. Senator Ike Smalley was still serving, had no idea what he was going to be doing. And I was with a close friend of mine called Jack Daniels. And my wife said, "What are you thinking?" And I said, "I'm going to run for the state senate. We're going to break up that interlocking board membership." And she didn't even know what I was talking about. You got to remember, my income stream was coming from those 3 lenders. If you were rejected for a loan at one of the banks, there's a good chance you're going to be rejected at all 3 of them. And I said, that's not a level playing field. I communicated to my mother that was living down in Houston at the time. She never lived to see me get elected. But she made a remark to me. She said, "If you're not successful, what are you going to do?" And I said, "It's absolutely no problem. I'll just have to move." From that standpoint. To make a long story short, I was victorious in that. Before I was ever sworn in, the board moved all of those members to board emeritus status where they no longer had a vote from that. So I accomplished, before I was sworn in, what I set out to do. And that's, if you're not familiar with the banking world, what's going on, the way it used to be, quite frankly, that's the way it was in small towns in many cases on that. With that being said, I ran against Senator O'Neill's father's best friend in the general election, but in the primary, I ran against a banker on that. So that's sort of how I got here. And since I accomplished what I wanted to do, never in my lifetime did I think I'd be up here 32 years. Obviously, most of you all know my wife and my kids. I would have been out of this chamber many years ago, but for them. They were offering the encouragement for me to run from that standpoint. I didn't run for the office until my youngest son was in his last semester of college. So I didn't have to really worry about the young kids and how you cope with that and make that adjustment as a family. There's 3 people on this floor that remember the way it was. And that's Senator Campos, and that's Senator Engel, and that's myself. Well, you were on the floor, but you didn't have a vote on there, Lenore, on that. And all 3 of us know how vicious this chamber was. Extremely mean, extremely educational. And when people get a little ornery, there's 3 people today that can make those adjustments accordingly. But all 3 of us wanted something different. And I encourage you to make certain that this chamber moves forward as friends and as family. We've been through special sessions when Senator Scher's wife was very, very ill. Senator Jerry Ortiz-Pino's brother was extremely ill. And Senator Sue Bedford's son had leukemia. And we ended up the session, and we, regular session, and the governor decided he should have a special session because he had done so well in that special session. And we all knew the family situation that had happened on that. And we pulled together. The governor was not particularly happy with the outcome of that special session. But we all respected each other's families and the hardships and the troubles we went through trying to keep this thing in order, but still keep your family first. Those are the things that I will certainly remember. In closing, on two things. First, I want to go to an incident that happened on the floor. Senator Payne, you were part of that. Well, the other senator will be nameless, and he was frustrated at you and was apprehensive and had rhetoric going around saying, maybe I'll take Senator Payne out to the parking lot. They did not realize Senator Payne was a Navy SEAL, and somebody went to that individual and said, would you like to select the way you want to die? On that. And those are fond, humorous memories now when we look at that. But the bottom line is that, quite frankly, I have no doubt that this chamber is going to make a successful transition with new members that will do some heavy lifting. But they are going to have to do something that I was smart enough, but not smarter than the people that advised me. And I sat there listening diligently to the young minds in state government, and God only knows we've got a bunch of them. Very, very bright, but be smart enough to listen to them. I've listened to people on finance. My degree was in biology. It's not in finance, it's in biology. But we've got some smart financial people, we've got smart budget people, and I'm totally indebted to the Legislative Finance Committee and their staff. The gentleman over there in the corner has a unique ability to cultivate and hire outstanding individuals that will sustain this state into the future and will get us over the rough spots in the future with whoever's elected on that. But those individuals within this chamber that are elected are going to have to listen to people that are smarter than them and accept that and accept their guidance from that. The Legislative Education Study Committee is also in that category. And then when we look at our staff around, they can give us very, very affirmative reinforcement on what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. We have the council service. You know, I sit here with staff, and everybody will talk about Luella being my secretary. Luella is our secretary. It's our secretary. And then when I look at Janet Peacock, we've got people from both chambers that I've invited to go talk to Janet, because when it comes to tax issues, I say if Janet's not happy, John Arthur Smith's not happy from that standpoint. But they don't work for me. She's an expert in that area, and she doesn't work for either party. She works for the state of New Mexico, and will tell you what is good policy. We will not tell you whether it's good for Republicans or good for Democrats, but tell you what's good policy. Senator Engel has staff people on the budget side, and we had staff people on the budget side, had Mike Burkhart on that, and then you got the Johns and Danette on that. And boy, you talk about resources that are great for the state of New Mexico, and there's no doubt in my mind that this chamber is going to function extremely well. I just thank you for the opportunity. On election night, if people thought I was upset, what happened to me was not unexpected, and I was ready to move on from that standpoint. My district has no idea what I have to assimilate into to be successful up here. And most of this chamber has no idea how to assimilate into my district on that. And for 32 years, we've been fairly successful in that area, and we've tried to be fair, regardless of party affiliation, with everybody that I've worked with. And so I want to thank you, and thank you, and thank you.
Thank you, Senator Smith. President Pro Tem.